thinking about this presentation, I was watching the news last night and I was thinking of what a powerful change time we're in and how it's affecting everybody. As Elizabeth shared, I'm a psychologist. I have clients, so I am talking with people and groups of people, and even in classrooms, I've been talking to kids. But it's a two-sided coin right now, in that the one side of the COVID and the pandemic, and now the demonstrations and the protests, the one side is that these are horrible things, okay? The one side of the coin. But what we've learned is that what affects one person, even across the globe, will soon affect us, even physically, not just intellectually, not just emotionally, but also physically. And the flip side of that is to know without question we are all connected. There's an interconnectedness. And so how you are as a person will affect someone else in your family, your loved ones that you're with now at home. And beyond that, we affect each other constantly, and we are interconnected. We are truly, when you hear and read all about the oneness, the pandemic alone has proven that oneness exists across the globe. So I took that last night and I thought, what are the most critical things to share? And even when I say that, I start to get emotional because I, like you, am very sensitive emotionally, and things affect me very deeply. So what I'm going to share with you tonight, and they asked me to make a PowerPoint, so I'm going to be up in the little side and you're going to see my PowerPoint soon, are really just basic, essential things that the children have told me. And by the way, I don't just work with children, I work with adults. So I truly, honestly have worked from ages 3 to 87. And so I know that what the children tell me to be true for them also affects us when we're in our middle years or elder years. So irrespective if you're coming to be here with me as a parent, as a teacher, or a kid, an adult, whatever your age is, what I have to share, I think, will have meaning for everyone. So I'm going to now pull up my PowerPoint. Okay, here we go. And it's called Heart of the Matter. What is at the heart of the matter? Basically, truly, that's what I'm going to talk about. And, you know, if you know me, and a lot of you do know me, I work up to the last minute. I mean, 15 minutes before we were on, I was adding slides, taking off slides, because giving a short presentation is the hardest thing. It's easier for me to talk for hours. So I'll be going through these rather quickly. The number one thing that I want you to remember, and that I want you to know about yourself and your children, is that it's magnificent, our mind. We love our gifted mind. We love the expansion, we love the discovery, we love the adventure, we love to learn, we love our mind. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But there's more to us than just our mind. And the world, excuse me, I brought water. In the classroom, in the outside world, and even we ourselves, they look to giftedness as productivity, as an academic world, as grades, as, you know, things like that. And they forget about the wholeness of the person. So I just added this, and I'm having a little bit of an issue because part of it's, excuse me, is being blocked by I don't know, I guess it's letting me know that we're live. So I think you can read this. To me, giftedness isn't just about learning things. It's also about the intellectual point of view. It's about feeling and understand other people's feelings in a different way and being more advanced in that way and a little more sensitive. I already feel like we're not seen as whole people. We're only seen for our academic strengths. I just had to let the kids' words, and I have hundreds of these, of what the kids have told me. So Tim, age 11, is saying, I'm not just my mind. I feel differently. I experience things differently. I understand things differently. Here's a girl, a highly gifted girl, who stated that while she does talk to others at school, they largely are mere sympathetic listeners. She stated she has yet to meet someone like her. I wish I was not such an anomaly. My best friend lives in my imagination. Now, I chose those two out of hundreds because they talked about the mind, the sensitive feelings, the perceptivity, and the social self. And so I have this next slide to remind you. Giftedness, while we use it as an intellectual term, and thank goodness for it in our educational system, thank goodness, it is more than an intellectual term. And giftedness is not just about productivity. There are effects of giftedness across all of who you are. So a gifted person not only has the curiosity and the propensity of mind and the discovery, emotionally, generally, not always, people are more sensitive who are gifted because they are more perceptive. They see things more, they experience things deeper, they question things more, things affect them more. They have so many more channels bringing in information, not just with their mind, with their emotion, and even with their body. So much so that we see the kids in the classroom, that have sensory issues because they have so many channels that they're feeling and hearing and seeing and noticing and experiencing that it can be overwhelming. The world itself can be overwhelming. And right now, I would say, with the news and what's going on in the whole world and also in the United States specifically, with the protests and the demonstrations and the horror of things, physically people are being affected. Physically, we're affected. Our sleep is affected. Our stress level is affected. Our worry, our concern for others, and our compassion as well. Giftedness affects our morals and our ethics. Gifted individuals usually ask more questions. They don't just accept what other people say because we trust ourselves, because we have so much information coming in our mind, in our heart, through our body, and even in our core self, our morals and ethics, our spiritual core. We have so much information that's constantly being given to us. We trust what we're told. And that is why, by the way, parents, we don't outgrow wanting to be at the helm. We don't outgrow trusting ourselves more in making decisions than having others make decisions for us. If you're little or if you're an elder, it's our greatest strength that we have so much information to listen to and to be guided by. It's also one of our weaknesses because sometimes we don't open up to others because there's so much going on inside and we trust it so implicitly that we don't always remain open. So there's the good news and the bad news, always two-sided coin. And it affects our social self. You know, if you're a sensitive soul, I'm writing a chapter right now, actually. I just have to, it's coming into mind. I'm writing a chapter on bullying. And I'm talking about the sensitive, gifted child who's so perceptive and cannot completely hide their giftedness with their vocabulary and their humor and their curiosity and et cetera, of who they are and their sensitivity. They can become a target, but most certain for bullies, but most certainly, sometimes, just like that girl said in the quote before, you just wonder, when am I going to find somebody of likeness? I wish I wasn't an anomaly. My best friend lives in my imagination, because some gifted people, the higher the intelligence on the bell-shaped curve, the more different, the more distinct, by definition, you're going to be from the average norm person. That's just the way it is. That's simply the definition of the bell-shaped curve. It's the difference within us, but it isn't just the difference in our abilities, in our mental abilities. It is the difference, our innate differences in who we are, across all of who we are. So the number one thing, I truly have done qualitative research, over 20 years of it, asking the kids from kindergarten age through college, what is the one thing that you want me to tell teachers and what do you want me to tell parents? And then I rephrased it. And this is what they want you to know. They want you, whoever you are, whether you're a teacher or a parent, they want us to see one another as an individual. See me. Hear me. Know who I am. And this is what that means. It means that in the home, if you're a parent, the first most important thing, I promise you, I was saying to my friend right before the presentation, if they would be, I'm going to talk about the foundational things. I have counseled thousands and thousands of families. If they would just listen to these foundational concepts, I promise you it will make a huge, huge difference in your home. So the number one thing, look at each one of your children and your partner and yourself as an individual. And I want you to see how you're similar as a family, because that makes you feel like you belong, right? You belong together. We are a unit, we're a family, and we're similar to all human beings. We're a human being, okay? And then you look at how they're each different, and that's individuality again. That's true of every person, whether you're gifted or not. When you get further on that bell-shaped curve, you begin to differentiate from the ways that other people are, okay? And what the kids tell me is that as much as I love being like Uncle Bob, and I'm just like Grandpa Larry or whatever, what I really wish is that my mom and dad could see me separate from my brother and sister, not always compare me to themselves or what they expect or what my brother and sister does, or, you know, what my abilities are, what my potential is, that they see me, that they hear me, that they pay attention to me, and they help me. They don't say it this way, I'm saying it as a psychologist. They help me understand how I am unique. What is it about me that's special? What is it about me that you see, mom and dad, that is my inner being that makes me unique? Because another part of my research over the years, I have yet to meet a person who's gifted, and I work with moderately, highly, exceptionally, and profoundly across the age span, who doesn't tell me in some capacity that they want their life to have meaning. They want to contribute to the world. They want to make a difference. That is that spirituality, ethics, and morals, knowing that they have something to offer and they need our help to understand how they are different from each other and what is special about them. They need to see it in our eyes and in our words. So I just want you to know, parents, you're the most important person in their life, period. And you have to take that seriously. And I know you do. You're attending right now. You're taking it very seriously. You are the hub of the wheel. Okay. And when we talk about self-esteem and we talk about belonging needs, and those are two basic needs of any human being across the globe, to feel like they belong somewhere and to feel that they're welcomed somewhere, that they have esteem in that group. We get that at home. When kids have, so many families come to me with so many different issues, but when kids have difficulty making friends or fitting in the classroom or finding an appropriate school to go to, or even in the neighborhood, fitting in, the one place, the most critical place to belong is in the home. And that sounds funny for me to say it that way. It's like, well, it's obvious. They're my child. They belong. But I'm talking about feel it. I'm talking about feel that I am accepted and seen for who I am, and I'm going to say more about it. Our self-esteem is built on the feedback we get from others. And the primary person in our life that we care the most about, pleasing and having them be proud of us, is our parents. There is nobody who can match you. Okay. Second to that is going to be the grandparents and the siblings. That's what the research says. The siblings matter a lot. And sibling rivalry is natural, but our siblings are important. Feeling that we are accepted, even though we're different from each other, even though we're unique, even though we might have different likes or very different traits and personalities, etc., that we still live together and accept each other as family. And that I want you to pay attention. It's just coming to my mind now, and this happens to me a lot when I'm talking. I want you to pay attention to the tone of the talk in your family. I want you to pay attention. Are there sarcastic comments? Are there put downs? Is there yelling? Is there talking over one another? Is there hushing each other? Is there calling each other names? How many of us as adults, I can remember what my brother called me, and he was a loving person, but do you think I'm ever going to forget that name? No, right? It matters. It matters that now we're home together so much. I want us to take some inventory on how we're treating each other. And if we can let one another be individuals. So here it says, Mom, can I be who I am? Now, this isn't easy. And I really want you to register what these questions are saying. Can I be different from you? And how I think, so what my perspective is, which is different from you. My phenomenological individual truth is my own, okay? Yours is your own. Can't I have my own thoughts? And of course, we know as parents that kids of all ages and teens, again, they trust themselves and they believe their perspective to be true, whether you see as an adult that you don't agree with it or not. Can I think differently than you? Can I feel my own feelings? Can I act differently than you? Can I want different things than you want for me? Can I want what matters to me? That is saying to you, can I be an individual? Will you allow me to be me? One of the saddest things I've got to tell you is when people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s and 60s come into my office and I ask them, what makes your heart sing? You know, they give me their history and everything. I say, what brings you the greatest joy? You know, what's at your core? What matters to you the most? What's essential to you? And when I say what makes your heart sing, brings you the greatest, I'm not sure about that. I don't know anymore. I've lost sight of that. I've been so active in pleasing others and taking care of what I need to do to fulfill my life's roles and demands and all the things that keep us busy in everyday life. I've been so active in that. I've lost sight of my inner being and who I am. And this is also a danger in marriages, that we tend to try to please each other. And even the love songs say the two become one. And I'm telling you, when the two become one, they end up in my office with marital problems because one person feels like, who am I? I've lost myself in this relationship. So we have to be careful. In a family, and I'm going to use my hand, here's the family. Here's the family members, 5 family members. This is healthy. Everybody stands as an individual, but we're all connected. This is unhealthy when we're all supposed to be the same. We're supposed to have the same beliefs. We're supposed to talk the same. We're supposed to agree on everything. We're not allowed to have our individuality. That's not healthy. This is a healthy environment. So do I always have to do what you want me to do? Do I have to please you and the teacher all the time? Kids are humans. Just like sometimes at work, we are on, we're great, we're flowing, everything's great. And other days, we don't give a crud or something else is on our mind. Like now, something else is on our mind. There's so much on our mind, where it's so much awareness, and that affects us. We have to be sensitive to the individuality, giftedness, high level of perceptivity, sensitivity, questioning, wondering, deliberating is giftedness. Teachers, in case there are teachers, I cannot tell you how important you are. When it goes outside the family, teachers are the next person that has to deal with the self-esteem and the self-confidence of the students. They say to me directly, the most important, I've asked, trust me, over 1,000 answers. I have the 355 cards, I really do. They say the most important thing is the relationship with the teacher. The teacher sees me. The teacher cares about me. The teacher sees what I love, hears it, wants to learn with me, wants to explore with me. They are in relationship with me. I cannot tell you, you have been, when the families are not harmonious families, and we know that there's a lot of conflict in families, and there's a lot of stress in everyday life, a lot of demands, all the way from age 4 all the way through our life, right? That it can be the teacher who sees the kid and responds sensitively to the child, and the child feels seen and valued and understood. And that empathy and that compassion of the teacher has, well, it's made life and death changes for kids I've worked with. So do not underestimate the importance of why you became a teacher. You became a teacher to make a difference to kids. You became a parent because you wanted children. You wanted to love children. You wanted to nurture them. You wanted that intimacy. Both of those are relationship oriented. It's about loving, compassion, awareness, awakening to the children and one another. So I almost always have this slide, because people ask me, what's essential in a family? And it's the same exact thing that's essential in the classroom. It's a little different because of the environment, right? There's a lot more differences in the classroom. At home, thank goodness, because of the genetics, there's a lot of normalcy. There's a lot of genetic similarity in traits and personalities and abilities. In the classroom, you get marked diversity. And so now we go outside that little haven of home that I hope is a haven, and we go into the classroom. Now, these are called the core conditions. They were tested for 50 years by Carl Rogers and his group of people, and they are the bottom 4. The top one, interdependency, is one that I added with regard to family, and even in the classroom, particularly family. So interdependency means exactly what I showed with the fingers. It means independency, and then we're allowed to be dependent on each other. We're allowed to help each other, to affect each other, to connect together. So we are interdependent, independent, and able to be dependent on one another. And then the core conditions that make for a loving, fertile soil for anybody to grow in. Anybody at any age. These same characteristics apply to your marriage and your partnership. They apply to your best friend. They apply to the relationships at work to whatever degree, if you're going to want closeness, if you want it to be a growth experience. That I must be able to be genuinely who I am. Gifted people mask. We mask a lot because we are different, and we know we're different. And we stand out whether we are in the classroom or we're at work, okay? And so being genuine is a gift. When we unmask, when we feel that someone else will respect our individuality, I feel like I can be who I authentically am. I don't have to be a production machine. I don't have to be a robot. I don't have to just please you. I am authentically, genuinely who I am, and respected in my individuality. Non-judgmental acceptance. That sounds like it's an impossibility. Basically, it just means the judgmental part, the non-judgmental is what's so hard to get to, because gifted people are very judgmental of themselves and of everything, because we see what ought to be and we want it to be that, right? So acceptance just means, I think it's more a heart acceptance, not a head that everything's perfect. And so I accept everything about you, even though there's some traits that you really need to work on. We're not talking about that. We're talking about heart acceptance, loving acceptance. And then the goal of an intimate relationship is empathy. And that is listening to your children, to one another, to your partner, from their frame of reference, accepting that their frame of reference is as valued to them as yours is to you. Okay. So that's the first thing. That's the most important thing of all. See me, hear me, know me, help me to understand my uniqueness. Now, in my longer presentations, there are 5 things, but I've sort of interwoven them here, sort of snuck them in. And so we're going to keep going, and I'm only going to talk primarily of 2, but they're interwoven. So these are some quotes from clients to let you know that life isn't easy when you're gifted. It's a 2-sided coin. There's the magic of it. There's the majesty of being gifted. And then there's the hard stuff about being gifted. So here's some of the hard stuff. Most days are hard and super intense for me. Okay. So now we're talking about the overexcitabilities. I'm going to presume that you know about them. If not, you can certainly read them in my book. And there are many, many articles in wonderful books about them. But hard and intense. It's hard, like there's so much going on. I feel overwhelmed by what is around me, all the activity, all the people, all the energy I'm feeling, and then how I feel inside. I worry a lot whether I'm good enough. So here are some ways that are common everyday experiences. The am I good enough is a very common thing that I hear of all ages of giftedness. So parents and teachers, I'm wanting you to look at yourself, and I'm wanting you to see how you're modeling at home. Because by golly, we wish that our kids wouldn't pick up some of our bad habits, and we sure did wish that we wouldn't pick up all of our parents' bad habits. And thank goodness we worked on a lot and we didn't, right? Not all of them. But I want you to know that children learn what they live. There's no way around it. Okay. So just look at yourself. Where are you on these continuums? This isn't an absolute one or the other. We move across at different times. But probably the next slide will say, but I want you to know that your child at home, and they're doing this as well, the teacher in the classroom, but your child at home is observing and integrating all that you do and say, and all your emotion, whether it's congruent or incongruent with what you say. So just see where you want to work on, take some inventory, what you want to work on for yourself. Check the time quickly. Oh my, it's going too fast. So I ask you to listen, listen, listen with your mind, heart, body, and spirit, not just your ears, your eyes, your heart, your body, and your spirit. I want you to know that all behavior is purposeful. All behavior is purposeful because it comes from the inner world, the inner working, the inner experience, the phenomenological experience of the child or the adult or the individual. So whatever we do or don't do has some effect. The behavior has some effect of our thoughts and emotions. I put this in because I wanted you to know what the kids are needing. If there was, I see a lot of people with anxiety just generally over all these years, because I think that, again, because of the sensitivity and perceptivity, that people worry, and I see heightened anxiety in kids. And there's 3 things that I say are the magic 3 that a child wants and needs for security, to feel safe. And that is stability in the home, feeling a sense of security, like we are safe, and something being predictable. Now, we are in the midst of unpredictability. And that is why many people, particularly those who have catastrophic thinking, who, I wrote down a word here, who have intolerance for uncertainty, it scares them, uncertainty that they can't predict, that they are heightened anxiety and fears. And I want you to know that you cannot hide. Like when I'm watching the news and I'm getting affected by the news, if I had a young child, even if the child wasn't watching the news, they would read with radar what our emotion is. So I want you to look at yourself. You can't give predictability completely right now. You can make wise choices. You can be safe. You can ensure that for your children. You can talk about that clearly, okay? But I want you to see, how much stability do you have inside? How much sense of security do you have inside? And if you don't, as an individual, as an adult right now, for many reasons, you need to work on it. It's a time to do some work on self, because your kids will absolutely pick up your emotion and what's going on with you, and they will mirror it back to you. I want to speed on because there's so much more. So when your child is upset, and I can't talk a lot about this because it's a whole different presentation, I want you to respond to what they're saying with an empathic response, but try not to take it on. You know, there's a phrase, we're only as good as our children are. We're only as happy as our children are happy, because we get so affected. We love them so dearly. But I want you to know that particularly as they get older, preteen and teen particularly, and even when they're little, you can ask them, would you like my help? Instead of trying to control the situation or alter the situation for them. Another whole presentation, and if you want to talk to me directly about this, you'll have to get in contact with me, and that is that most fears and anxiety is based on imagination. So when I work with, unless it's post-traumatic stress, okay, based on an actual situation or a circumstance that is occurring now, there is a danger, a true danger in the moment. If you're in your home and you've been, alone and, sequestered and everything is, okay, you're okay, you have your food and your shelter and everything, there is no immediate need for immediate impending fear, okay? It's the uncertainty. So when we have fear, it is our imagination usually doing a domino effect, like a spiral down, or a domino from one thought, what about this, what about that, then this, then that. So when I work with people to help them build, reestablish confidence in themselves, in their choices, in one another, in what they can control, and even some confidence in the unknown, the unpredictable, I use imagination. So again, that is a specific topic, but I want you to know that you can create in your mind horror stories, or you can create wonderful things. What you create in your mind, the mind can change. If fear is based on what you're thinking, because emotion follows the thought, then you can change your feelings by changing what you're thinking. Here's just a wonderful picture of what I want you to do. Help your child understand what is special about me. What does he or she have to offer? Believe and trust in them. See me, hear me, know me. We're almost done. It's getting late. This is, I want you to look at this as a, what do you call it? Arrow and what we're heading towards with our arrow, what we're trying to get to, This is a picture of all of who we are, every single one of us. This is our life from the outside in, okay? And so on the outside of what we deal with the most in the world, it's all the demands of the world. We live all these things simultaneously. Let me try to help you understand. This is all of who you are from the outside in, with the goal to be, I think I actually even have this little laser pointer. Let's see. Yeah. The goal is to go from the outside to the inner core. going back to those questions, what is special about you? What is unique about you? What do you have to offer? What is it about you? So mostly we spend our time doing our homework, paying our bills, going to work, worrying about how we're dressed, if our friend likes us or not, are we alone? It, all the demands of everyday life, just the ins and outs of everyday life, doing laundry, whatever it is, the roles that we have in life, okay? The next phase is what we don't show everybody, and gifted kids and gifted adults mask this quite a bit, and that is our stresses and fears. Everybody has them. Kids as young as 4, not just the fears of the house burning, but fears about being in preschool, or fears about homework, or fears about whatever. We all have stresses and fears, but we tend to hide them from one another. The next part in is how the family, the history of our everyday life imprints us. And so now you see that it's getting even deeper. It isn't just the outside stuff, it's getting deeper to what really matters to you. Remember, I said the parent and the siblings, the family, has the strongest imprint. It isn't who we are. It isn't equal. The imprint that my family has on me, even my children, my family of origin and my children and husband, they have an imprint on me as well. But it doesn't equal who I am. They just affect me. But what happens is our history, the history that we've experienced, your history as an adult, what it was like in your family, what it was like for you as a child, what it was like in the classroom, your successes or failures or vulnerabilities or rejections or goals, and all the different things, how it affected you in your life. That's the stuff that we sort of keep pretty close, and we don't share those with very many people. Now, what happens in life is that we spend time focusing on these 3 things. This takes so much time, all the demands of everyday life, that it's just natural. And then at nighttime, I call it, my friend Stephanie calls it the lateral fears. When you wake up in the middle of the night and all your stresses and fears are there, at the 3 a.m. kind of thing. Or you can't get to sleep at night. You don't sleep well. You have interrupted sleep. Or you can't produce. You can't think clearly. You get burnt out because of the stresses and fears. These things keep us busy and active. But unfortunately, it doesn't get us down below all those parts, the deeper part, the unique part, your golden self, the core of why you're here, your purpose, your gift to offer others, your gift to the world, what you have to offer, what difference you can make. And so parents, please, please don't sacrifice a loving relationship with your child by focusing too much on these outer things. Did he or she take out the garbage? Did they put away, did they make their bed? Did they do all their homework? Please, yes, I understand that things matter and we make choices, but don't get lost in the fears and the stresses. There's so much negativity that can be there. Become aware of the imprint that you're making, a loving imprint. And the most important imprint is for you to see the beauty of who they are. Catch them in the moment of their unique beauty when they're petting their cat, or they're hugging the dog, or they're picking a flower, or they're playing their music and they're lost in the music, or they're reading a book and they're in an imaginary world and they're just enthralled in it. And tell them how they look and how amazing it is to see them with such curiosity or such joy and love and passion and whatever they're doing. Help them see the beauty of who they are. I truly, truly know that if we would do this with one another, with our partners, instead of focusing that they didn't buy the groceries or didn't pay the bill, if we didn't just look at what they've done and not done, but started remembering what we love about the person, the beauty of who they are. That's the gift of a loving relationship. Let me get down here. Hold on. So I'm going to end with this. These are my gifts to you of choosing health. Number 1, you are 5 domains. You're not just a mind. You have a mind, a heart, a body, a spirit, and a social self. Pay attention to all 5 every day. Talk about them. Talk not just about your thoughts, but how you feel, how your body feels, what your morals and ethics are telling you, what's socially going on with you. Pay attention to all of who you are. Help your children to pay attention to all of who they are. It said number 1 again. It should say number 2. Get enough movement, sleep, and healthy food each and every day. That's the basic foundation. That's number 2. Number 3 is a miracle. Number 3, if you have depression and anxiety, and even in the pandemic time, I want you to get outside and realize that there is an order beyond what your inner being order is. There is a universal order. The sun comes up and it goes down. The birds still sing. The wind is blowing. The grass is green. There is springtime and summertime blooming. Get outside, expand your awareness from the tunnel of anxiety and indoors. Get outside. It will change your entire experience. Have your kids get outside. If it's as simple as walking the dog or taking a walk every night, please do it. I want you to begin to realize that you are a magnet. We all are magnets. How we act is what I began with. We are interconnected. Who I am, how I act affects how you feel, what you do. I raise my voice, you raise your voice back. My tone matters. My attitude matters. My facial gesture matters. So I want you to realize, again, think of yourself. If you have a lot of fear, stress, and anxiety, you're going to be more closed. That's a closed sort of position. When you have love, joy, and hope, it's an open position. And so this is things you need to work on. If you want your children to have less stress and anxiety, you must realize that you need to work on your faith and trust in yourself and in the universe and in an order and your connection with nature, etc. You must realize that all things are in motion and you do have choices that matter. You can make a difference in your life. You are not a victim right now. We are not in a victim place. We can make powerful choices. The next one is an acronym that I've come up with, TAG. Every day, I'd like for you to express, and I want you to have everybody do this, just very casually, what you're thankful for. And you can make a list if you want to, but if the kids put away the dishes, you can say, I'm so thankful. Thank you so much for doing that. Or I so appreciate that you fed the dog or watered the dog. Or thank you. I'm so grateful that we have a home and that we're safe here and we're blessed and we're together. And you see what I'm saying? Say the simple things. Make it a habit. It will change and affect that fear and stress mentality. And the last one I just added, comment on the little things. I should have put in the positive, the golden core little things. Look into the eyes of one another and feel compassion for one another. Feel empathy and oneness with one another. Listen, eyes, ears, heart, body, spirit. Love one another and be of service in small giving ways. When I say be of service, I mean daily. If you want to be out of depression, if you want to be out of anxiety, do something, even if it's small, giving to somebody in the house or giving to a neighbor or pick up something or do something. Do something that's giving and of service to others. And that gives you meaning and purpose in the day. So I think that's all I have time for right now. This is my book. You can get it through Amazon, and it is a very simple, short book with purpose that it's an easy read. It'll be very quick, but I think it'll give you a lot of information. Thank you.
Patty, thank you so much. I could listen to you all night. You put me in such a peaceful place tonight.
Good. Good.
We really appreciate you. We do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
One is from the teacher perspective and one is from the parent perspective around the reality of possible remote learning this fall. How, if we are in a remote situation, full-time or part-time or what have you, how can teachers on one end create these authentic, real relationships with these gifted students? And on the other side, Mandy Ann asked, how can we as parents support this process to help build those relationships between our children and their classmates and teachers?
Well, I have a very important answer for you, because I spent a week with gifted students virtually in Tallahassee, middle school, young, and all the way through high school. And they talked to me, hundreds of gifted kids talked to me about what I said, what do you need? How's it working? And it was very interesting. For some, they were glad to be home. Those who were very strong introverts, who didn't have good friends, who felt like they didn't belong, there was sort of a relief. At the same time, they were getting a little tired of being home. You understand that. But what they said about the teacher over and over and over again was the importance of accessibility to that teacher. And the importance, like I was helping them advocate when they would say, I don't know, I don't understand this assignment. I'm trying to do this assignment, but we were talking about lack of motivation, how it was hard to keep motivated. I don't know how to do this assignment. And I, the instructions don't matter. And I can't really find this. And so we would talk about talking to other classmates or texting other classmates. And then I'd advocate with them, please contact your teacher. Well, then some of the kids I got to talk to the next day or through the week, they said the teacher didn't answer me. And I'm telling, and they were very compassionate. They were saying, she has her life too, and she's got a lot going on, and I'm sure she can't always answer. They were very compassionate. They weren't nasty. It was pretty intriguing, actually. They were quite compassionate, I think, because they wanted compassion back, that they wanted the teacher to realize they weren't going to be motivated all the time, and they were, it was going to be more difficult for them. But again, the relationship. I cannot tell you how important it is to, when you're even, I don't know if you're going to be doing like lectures that you'll be able to see the class, like in Zoom, that, you'll see the gallery. Call the kids by name, make sure that you say, oh, I see, thank you so much for this, Bobby, or I really noticed, Sue, da, da, da. It is so important. I can't tell you. Out of probably talking to 200 kids of that age group, that was probably the biggest theme, was the relationship with the teacher was the most important thing. If the teachers still cared about the subject, they knew that it was hard on the teachers. They knew that it was taxing the teachers. They felt bad about it themselves. They wanted, just like they always do, meaningful assignments, not just things that, the teacher could put forth, but it was very hard for teachers. They wanted to have important interactions. They felt that the dialogue with each other in the classroom, in the gallery, that was really important, that the teacher facilitated some dialogue, like that there would be meaning to things, meaning to assignments. And the other thing that they came up with was, of course, they have great ideas themselves. The kids have the greatest ideas. If you're dealing with, some unit, particularly if it's in writing something, a writing assignment, a research or something, ask them for some ideas of what would you like, let's come up as a class, let's talk about what we could do to really demonstrate, our knowledge of this or our insight about this. I mean, it fascinated me. So these kids still wanted to do well in school. The grade did matter, and that the teacher realized that they were trying. Some of them had depression and anxiety, and so we dealt a lot with their depression and anxiety. We dealt their sadness. And again, so I'm talking to the parents too now. Some kids were, this pandemic causes us to be isolated from others, okay? And particularly in teen years and preteen years, that's difficult, right? And you're always questioning anyway, because in those years, the scary part is one day your friend is your friend and the next day she or he isn't your friend, right? And so there's all this trauma anyway. And so then you're a little bit worried, is the friend going to be there or not? And, so there's all this stuff going on. And then there's, stress in the family and everything. So we talked about, what do you have control of that you can do? And I've got to tell you what I told them. I'm going to fess up to you right now, both parents and teachers. I said, I do not want you to sit there all day long like you're in class, like, the 8-hour day or whatever, and expect yourself to perform. That's not realistic. That's an unrealistic expectation. You can get your work done probably in several hour or 2 hour blocks, depending on what classes they are. So I had them focus on, and we all talked about, again, I said, what makes your heart sing? What brings you the greatest joy? What would feed you? What would feel so good to you? What would be so good, so fun? And they had all kinds of things, from dancing to music to, there were so many things, cooking. There was, I mean, then I had this one group that were all musicians, and I just want to play my music, or I just want to listen. I mean, I said, great. What I want you to do is start your day with something you love. Start your day by giving something to yourself. And then, and they did need the schedule. They needed a schedule to help them stay on, but not rigid, mom and dad. That's the problem. You've got to let them make their own choices sometimes. They have to be allowed to make their own choices. You can't be rigid. So I would say, so an hour of something wonderful, 2 hour block, depending on how old they were, an hour block of getting some work done, then take a break, go do something else that feels really good, then come back. So throughout the day, sort of, interjecting positive, so it didn't feel like it was draining them constantly. So to the extent that it can be, that parents cannot be rigid themselves, that it can be life-giving, that it can be joyous, that there can be movement, that they don't have to sit there all the time and do all the work. They're not robots. They're not robots. So I hope that's helpful. The relationships it's the primary thing.
No, I
And
love
for
that.
the parents to hear it, because I'm telling you, this one girl, I'm thinking this one teenager, she really suffers from severe depression, and her mother is a teacher,
Mhm.
and she wanted her to do all the work, blah, blah, blah. And she said, she keeps on telling me, sit down and do it. And she said, I can't think. She had lethargic. She couldn't think clearly. All the symptoms of depression. And so when you're dealing with depression, then we have to deal with small goals, and you lace it with things that are positive, things that feel good. Okay. And you just sort of you make a lace of that. Um, so anyway, there's much more to say about that. But again,
Sure.
see the individual.
Yeah, and I think what you said, because on a Zoom call, you're one picture on a screen of how many, and being noticed as an individual for what you bring to the table that's unique. That's so powerful, what you said. We do have one more question. I think you
Okay.
kind of already answered this with the lacing.
Okay.
But Mandy Ann asked, did you notice a difference in motivations around certain subjects based on interest in a particular subject? Doing it because it's interesting versus doing it because I have to, or it's an AP class that will get me college credit. More of that, I have to do it.
Yes, I would say absolutely, no question about the interest. Yes, that's given. And I got to tell you something else. Um, I talked a lot with high school students, a lot, all over the country, high school students and college students, and even the AP classes. That the meaning and the purpose of AP classes took a huge dip. And it isn't that the class itself isn't important, it's that their whole psyche has taken a dip. Their whole life has taken a dip. Everything that they knew, all the familiarity, all the predictability of school, all the friends, all the interaction, being able to interact with the teacher. They talked a lot about not being have one-on-one interaction, how hard that was. Everything took a dip. And so motivation has been affected deeply by the pandemic, and fear and lack of predictability and pressure and expectation that they're supposed to still perform as if they're like in the classroom and stuff. And they just don't, the energy exchange isn't there. I mean, when I'm with an audience talking, it's very different than right now when I can see your faces and I'm getting your energy. It's the same way in a classroom. It's the same way in a subject. So, but I've got to tell you, creative expression, a little bit more ownership of what they need to do. I talked a lot with IB students too. And of course that's very dictated, it's a very dictated program. And they wanted to complete it. It was important to them, and they did in fact do it, but it was a struggle. It was a struggle. So I think that the important thing is for us to be kind to ourselves and kind to the children with compassion, that this is not easy. and safety, security, predictability. And, that's been blown up. Things have exploded in their world. And so we can't expect all the same thing. We have to give the positive, focus on the positive, have faith and trust in them, listen to them, support them, be compassionate.
I love that, Patty. And I appreciate how you took this presentation and connected it to what we're experiencing in real time, in real life right now, because it's a lot and it's heavy and it's not
It
even
is heavy.
one thing right now. So I
No,
appreciate your
that's right.
connection to that.
Yeah.
If you're on Facebook now or you're going to watch this later on our website, coloradogifted.org, Patty's email and website are listed there, as well as the book that she has written. Just a couple of things that I loved, and we're out of time, but just a couple of things. And I have young children, and I so appreciated your hand analogy because that is so concrete and easy to understand. I loved the idea, the phrase, "you're more than a mind," because sometimes our gifted children and we as adults can treat them like that is the most important thing about them. And I also appreciated the similar, different, unique, the idea that we have similarities, but we have differences, and really our gifted children are unique in so many ways, and we want to honor and value that, and just having that haven at home, because it's so hard to find where to fit in the classroom and in society, and difference is what's causing a lot of what we're struggling with right now.
You're exactly correct. The home must be the haven.
Yes.
And that means you must feel seen. You must feel valued. You must be able to take off your mask and be genuine and be accepted for who you are.
I love that, Patty. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing with us tonight. We loved it.
Good.
For our viewers, don't forget that every Tuesday at 5 p.m. we have conversations with CAGT. Next week, we have Tina Harlow from Steamboat. Her presentation is called Bright Minds, Busy Bodies, a promising lens for viewing high energy children. So those of you who have been home with your high energy children more than normal, this would be a great presentation for you to check out next week, Tuesday at 5. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.